Let me ask you this, Sean, because everybody needs a level of inspiration, man. Who did you see? I mean, I know it, like, I do believe there's a level, it's in you. But who
Um,
did you see?
so for me, it was, see, we had to have mentors, right?
Yeah.
And if you wanted to learn how to b-boy, you had to go to somebody that was already doing it so that they could teach you. If you wanted to learn how to mix, you wanted to learn how to MC, you had to go to somebody. If you wanted to learn how to write graffiti, you had to go to somebody that was already doing it. And like for me, graffiti was my thing. That was the element of hip hop before music kicked in some years later. But that was the element of hip hop that I got and mastered first. So if you wanted to learn how to write graffiti, you had to go to somebody and they would give you a name, they would give you a tag. Once you mastered the tag, they give you some throw ups. Master the throw ups. Once they gave you that, they gave you an outline for a piece. Go home and do a piece. Then you went through steps before you were ready for prime time. You know, um, being able to go through those steps of mentorship and apprenticeship with people who are out here doing it, you know, that was your focus, was mastering that element or those elements that you were into. So the people you were surrounded by daily and you were inspired by were those folks who were helping you come up in your space. There was no influencers on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram
Right.
who led you astray. You know, you had your parents who, you know, if you were in a good household, you know, you watch your mom and pops work hard and you saw that their example of work ethic and taking care of yours was in front of you. But then when you were out in the street with this thing that you wanted to become a part of, you had those people who you looked up to and you rolled with, who were like minded and people who you could roll with in your tribe. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, you know, we didn't have any distractions in terms of the false prophets and the people who act like they're getting it and they're really not. We were out here in these streets of New York City, no cell phones,
Right.
being able to ride through on the subway. If people are scared of the subway, the way they hype the subway up now in New York City about crime and stuff, they
Yeah.
sure as hell couldn't have survived taking the subway in the 70s.
Right.
They literally could not have survived it. I mean, I rode every single train from first stop to last in all the boroughs because of graffiti.
You went through all the boroughs on the train?
I've been on every subway line beginning to end because of graffiti, because you had to go to different places to see it. You wanted to get up, you know, you had your markers with you, you know. Graffiti made you travel. It made you travel.
Wow.
And as you travel, you were dressed to represent where you were from. You know, you remember when we could tell what borough people were from just based on the shoes they were wearing or jacket or, you know, certain things. We could tell. Now, you know, I have a phrase that I say all the time when I teach my youngsters now. They all pay more to look the same than we ever paid to be different.
Yep.
Interesting. Interesting.
True.
Jordans
True.
come out on Saturday, they're all wearing the same shoe on Monday. I mean, that trend is starting to slow down now, but this is just as of the last couple of years, they're starting to do their own thing and buck the trends. But historically, for a couple of decades now, a
Yeah.
Jordan would come out on Saturday, everybody's wearing it at school on Monday, and we grew up in a space where you couldn't do that. We literally were raised never to do that. So to see that these kids were all okay with that level of acceptance
Hmm.
showed that nobody was willing to step out and be individually different like we were raised to be.
Mm.
We were raised to be tear the sleeves off of that jean jacket, you know, paint the sleeves on that jean jacket, put some artwork on the back,
Yeah.
you know, take those laces out those shoes and put in bungee cord. We
Mm.
were every day thinking these things to stay individuals and express ourselves uniquely. That
Now,
doesn't exist anymore.
but where did that come from? Because just hearing that to think differently like that, because again, and AG, you can attest to this too. growing up, man, in the inner city of Chicago, we wasn't thinking so much about an individual aspect as opposed to like, like you say, putting something different on your jacket or putting something different on your shoe. Where did that come from? Is that in home, or was
That's
this
hip
or was
hop.
this just a New York kind of vibe?
It's that's hip hop. Period. We had nothing, so you had to improvise to make something.
Mm.
It all still goes back to the fact that we grew up in a city that literally had no economic resources, no youth programs, nothing, let alone for parents raising kids, but kids themselves didn't have shit. There were no art programs, no music programs.
Yep.
All of these things that, all kids get across the country now in certain parts of the United States and Canada and other places. We literally had none of it. The federal government said, fuck New York, figure it out.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And that
That was.
caused everybody to get their ingenuity on.
I'm gonna tell
And
you this, man. Y'all did it.
one of the things I teach is you can never separate hip hop culture from sneaker culture, because sneaker culture, the result of it is the rules of engagement from hip hop.
Mm.
Every single aspect of it.
I'm just. First of all, man, I'm blown away by just the whole landscape of it all. Because what I'm seeing is, man, there's an element that I think so many people are missing. That I can honestly say this, man. That's not saying that people don't have this, because some you do see levels of this being creative and figuring out a way to really inspire yourself.
Mhm.
And to me, what I'm hearing from you is a lot is that your creativity was really birthed out of pain, in a sense. From
Being
from
and
a
being for and being forsaken by your own government.
Yeah.
Sneaker customization started in hip hop.
Yeah.
Now speak a little bit to that though, because um, hip hop in terms of a social movement, because obviously hip hop started in New York. By the time it kind of transcended our way, we didn't see it like you guys were living it at the time.
Yeah.
And this is the aspect of it and I'm glad you guys brought that up, because the music traveled faster than the rest of it.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
So the clarification, when I speak hip hop, I'm speaking all the elements, all five of them, and the fifth one being knowledge and mentorship,
Okay.
not the other creative ones. I'm speaking all five,
Okay.
right? So the music, of course, traveled faster thanks to friends like Marley Marl, Cool DJ Red Alert, who, is a near and dear friend of mine. Marley Marl, who I admire, Mr. Magic, WBLS at Kiss FM,
Mm.
WHBI. The music traveled through cassette tapes being made and people trading off and going to college in other states and cities. And,
Yep.
that stuff allowed for the music to travel. So when people say hip hop and they're only talking music, they're talking hip hop music or rap music. They're not
Yep.
talking about the very things that I'm telling you inspired my life's work and make me do what I do.
Mm.
So that has to be the first clarification, is when I say hip hop, I'm talking about all of it.
Mm.
And the music traveled faster than everything else. So b-boying didn't hit the Midwest and other places for a very long time until they were able to see it being done on TV,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
music videos, and other things. Graffiti, it wasn't until people started doing graffiti books and, graffiti artists themselves, they started coming out of the fire barrel bubble and being commissioned to do art in other states and countries and cities. Then the gallery movement, stuff like that. Our DJs weren't getting paid to play in other states and stuff like that for a long time,
Right.
until all of a sudden DJs and MCs were doing shows out of state. So that was when you were able to see how a DJ and an MC dressed, how a graffiti artist looked, kind of spray paint they used, and how they customized their shoes or what shoes they wear, all the other stuff that people needed to take advantage and notice of. it took years for other parts of the country and the world to actually experience that in real time. The music traveled the fastest.
Yeah, as you sitting here talking, I'm trying to get a timeline in my head of when I was exposed as a kid to New York lifestyle of that hip hop world. And it was the movie Beat Street. That's what we got. In 1984, that film came out. In 1982, 83, we wasn't even thinking about, we didn't know anything about rap music, uh, sneakers. We knew something about graffiti because all that shit was everywhere. Like they would
Mm-hmm.
trains, everything. Your house, your buildings that you lived in, stores. But Beach Street was our introduction into the New York b-boy rap sneaker. I mean, that whole film just was like, dude, I can still watch that shit today.
It
Uh,
was the first Hollywood produced motion picture, documenting the culture.